We need to go against science. But actually the real science proves the earth is flat. Real science proves that the earth is flat. And I mean, I know for sure, I started realizing this when I used to live at home in Mattituck. So I used to live in a place called Mattituck, which is at the tip of Long Island. And if you looked across on a clear day, I could see the shore of Connecticut. And the shore of Connecticut is about 17 miles away. And I started to question, because I was a physics major when I went to college for my first year. And I started to question the curvature. And I know I heard, from the media, it's just a mirage. But too bad mirages are upside down. And they're supposed to be inverted. So you can't say that something's a mirage from the curvature. So I started to question it. And I did the math. I found out, I said, 17 miles away, mind you, the earth is supposed to curve 8 inches per mile squared. So 17 miles squared times 8 inches divided by 12, it's about 192 feet of curvature you're supposed to see. So I shouldn't be able to see the shore, let alone any buildings in Connecticut. But it was clear as day. Even with and then just get binoculars, then it's even more clear. It's easy that you're just looking at a flat surface. But it's just a big lie. It's always been a lie. And some people will say, well, what about sailboats? When you see a sailboat going, that sailboat, it drops, right? No, it doesn't. Get binoculars. You'll just see the bottom of it right there. But I'll just prove to you why that happens. So when you're looking at something, picture you're looking down a hallway. You ever see a hallway? You know that every single border is the same, right? It's equidistant this way and equidistant this way. What happens to your vision as it goes farther away? It looks like the top is coming down, right? It looks like the top is getting lower. But it's not getting lower, it's the same height. If you walked all the way over there, it would be the same height. But all the converging lines come to your field of vision. So when you see a sailboat or a boat going away from you, it looks like it's getting lower. It looks like the top is dipping down. But what's actually happening is that all your converging lines of your vision are coming together. And if you would just take a camera that can zoom or binoculars that could see farther, you could be able to see the bottom of that boat. There was no dip. There was no curvature. There was nothing. It's just the field of your vision. That's why when you look at a hallway, all 4 sides are coming together in the top of your vision. It's just the way your mind processes things. It has nothing to do with the fact that something's curving, because people online, you can just go look. People just zoom in. Like they'll see a boat, you'll be like, oh, it's gone. And then they just use their camera and just zoom in a little bit, and it's like, oh, it's right there. It's still right there. Because it's so simple. It's just easy to prove that the earth is flat. It's so easy to prove that the earth is flat. You're in Isaiah chapter 44, look in verse 13. It says, the carpenter stretcheth out his rule, he marketh it out with a line, he fitteth it with planes. So remember we were talking about a line, how to measure with a line. Well, when you're stretching out your rule and you're fitting it with a plane is a flat surface. So when God was talking about measuring the earth with a line, he was measuring a flat surface. And what does he use to measure a curved surface? What would God call that? Look in the next verse. It says, and he marketh it out with a compass, and he marketh out the figure of a man. So to mark with a compass, that's what God would use to measure curvature. But he's just measuring it with a line. That's why we went over that verse before. And in Joshua chapter 6, you don't have to turn there, it says, verse 3, and ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war. So when they were circling the city, God would describe the earth as, compassed if it was round. But every time he describes measuring the earth, he describes it by stretching a line upon it, because it's flat and it's not round. Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 37 says, thus saith the Lord, if the heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth stretched out beneath, I will also cast out all of the seed of Israel. So the science saying, I know the radius of the earth, God is saying you can't measure that. God is telling you you can never measure how high heaven is. You will never be able to figure that out. But science tells us we can, because they're lying. If God says we can't measure it, then we can't. And it says in Proverbs 25:3, the heaven for height, the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable. So you'll never know how far the firmament is up, and you'll never know how deep hell is below us. Because you know how everybody says, and the Bible teaches that hell is below us. But isn't that such a finite place for hell? You know, you got billions of souls going to hell. And if you believe the earth is a globe, you only got so much space to put all those souls. We got to think of stuff more literally as a church, you know. If there's nothing under us, if it's an enclosed system and hell is beneath, God's got a lot of space to put hell. He's got a lot of space for all those souls. And then you're going to turn to Ezekiel chapter 40. Ezekiel chapter 40. So in Ezekiel chapter 40 and verse 5, it says, "And behold, a wall on the outside of the house round about, and in the man's hand a measuring reed of 6 cubits long, 6 cubits long, by the cubit and a handbreadth, so to measure the breadth of the building, 1 reed, and the height thereof." And then turn to Ezekiel chapter 45. So the measuring reed is 6 cubits long. 1 reed is 6 cubits. Just going to use some science here real quick. 1 reed is 6 cubits. Turn to Ezekiel chapter 45, look in verse 1. It says, "Moreover, when ye shall divide by lot the land for inheritance, ye shall offer an oblation unto the Lord, a holy portion of the land. The length shall be the length of 25,000 reeds." So he's using 25,000 reeds to measure the length of land. But a reed is a straight object. A reed you would use to measure something flat. And 6 cubits is the length of a reed. Times that by 25,000 reeds, that's 225,000 feet, which is 42.6 miles that they're measuring. With the formula for the curvature of the earth would have dropped 1,200 feet by then. You wouldn't use a reed to measure 1,200 feet of curvature, and you didn't account for that in any of his measurements, because you have to account for curvature when you're actually measuring out distances. That's why if you talk to anybody that lays track for trains, they never account for curvature because it doesn't exist. There's no curvature in the earth. They only count for going up and down hills. There's no curvature. There's actually, if you actually do the math, there should be a lot of curvature when you're doing 40 miles, 50 miles, hundreds of miles. You're not buying more track for hundreds of miles when you should be if there's a lot of curvature. And in my next sermon, because mind you, this is a 2-parter, I got to put this to bed. My next sermon, this is the end of this one, I'm going to cover the earth is a circle, not a sphere. The earth is fixed and not rotating. The earth is a flat surface, though we kind of touched on it here. The earth has ends, which I'll go over. And the sun moves, not the earth. And I have verses that prove that without a doubt. And I'll just close this in a word of prayer.